Welcome to Naperville Notables. I'm Liz Spencer. This is a conversation with people making an impact in our community. We're joined right now by Deputy Chief Amy Scheller of the Fire Department. Amy, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, Amy, you and I have known one another a long time. You were actually a community volunteer way back in the day for NCTV, so that's super. Tell me a little bit about how you got started on your journey. Did you always want to be a paramedic?
I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I was pretty active, pretty athletic. And so I started in a field in college. It was health science, and I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go. And I dabbled a little bit with special education. It was really a passion. And I had trouble with a couple classes.
Sure, I mean, health sciences, chemistry,
Yes.
all of that is hard.
right out of the gates.
Yeah.
And freshman year is hard too.
Sure.
So one of my counselors recommended that I go talk to the local volunteer fire department. So I went, and they needed people pretty bad, and they signed me on. So I actually went to college and was a volunteer firefighter at the same time, and they sponsored me through all my core classes. So through EMT class, through paramedic school, through all the fire science classes.
Wow, so were you one of the first or only women on that group?
I wasn't, but I did break a couple firsts there. I was the first lieutenant at that organization. But it was fantastic training, gained a lot of confidence, and that's what's needed in the fire service, is you need to be confident with the skills that you have. So yeah, very, very appreciative of that organization.
So what did your parents think about it when you went back and said, hey, I'm going to be a firefighter?
They were good with it. Yeah, they were good. So my father is really, he's a fantastic role model. He was that dad that let you hold the flashlight. He let you climb the roof. You know, there was no difference between me and my brother with my dad. So
very fair.
Very fair, very fair. And you know, he knew the kind of daughter he was raising, so he let me kind of push boundaries and kind of challenge different, statuses, and do things like. I remember I played for a co-ed soccer team, and I wanted to play goalie, and I was about the smallest kid on the field, and I was so persistent. He's like, "Fine, play goalie." Well, I got annihilated playing goalie.
It's good. How did that work out? Yeah.
It didn't work out very well. He knew, but he knew that he could put me in that position, and I would learn.
Right. Well, you probably knew you had to kind of figure it out for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. So 8-year-olds playing soccer isn't a big risk, right?
Right. So you mentioned the word confidence. So you have to be confident as a firefighter. Tell me, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think you have to be confident in the skills, in your knowledge, because you do go in, into a career that you know nothing of unless you have some experience.
Right.
So in Montgomery, they were able to train me, in all the different aspects of being a firefighter that were so critical, and so I had some confidence. Perfect example is when I got promoted to lieutenant. I was one of the first female lieutenants, and you did a story.
I remember it.
That. Yeah. We used the ladder truck. It was pretty cool.
It was super fun.
Yeah. Well, I came into a station where it was all senior members. It was all people that had been on the job more than 15 years. Really elite group that had a lot of pride in that ladder truck, and they typically do roof work and different work than engine companies, but because I had some experience from Montgomery of being up on a roof, throwing ladders, working with tools from ladders, it closed that gap a little bit. There were other things I had to work on, but I didn't have to worry about that.
Right. Well, and you had to. I think part of being a leader is winning the confidence of your teams.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
especially as a woman leader of men.
Yes.
So I'm sure that ladder experience helped.
Absolutely. Yeah, it did. And coming in, on equal terms, and regardless of male or female, when you come into a situation like that, if you use positional leadership, like your rank or bugles, then it's not very successful, especially with firemen. They tend to put you in your place pretty quickly. Yeah.
Right. So most people interact with the fire department in tough situations. So you see a lot.
Yeah.
How do you handle that as a person and not just internalize it or take it home? How do you deal with all that?
One of the things that we're getting better at is understanding that there's a resiliency part of the job. So, when you come on, you know that you're going to be working in some really unique situations where people are kind of at their worst.
Right.
And you're so focused on the task and reversing or stopping whatever's happening that typically when you're done with the incident is when you struggle to kind of process it. But knowing what your coping mechanisms are, knowing what you can kind of process best as is really, really, really important. So I have a really good group of friends, really good family. So a lot of times I'll talk through things with them. I'm completely different than the next person. You know, I'm not a big talker about details of events because I think people can assume, especially today, you can watch all kinds of things on TV.
Right, yeah.
And they're very detailed. You know, Walking Dead, all these programs, you know, they're very graphic.
Yes, almost two.
Yeah, so people are kind of seeing some of the things that we see, so we don't really, you know, need to describe a lot of it in detail. But yes, you have to have really good coping, and resiliency is key. Religion is, you know, a big part for me as well, and good friends.
That's right. Well, and was that something you had to learn along the way too?
Yeah, you know what, I didn't get a book. You know, I knew, you know, that you're going into the, you know, the fire service and that there could potentially be things, but there was no chapter. You know, everything else I learned, you know, throwing ladders, you know, moving hose lines, running an engine, but there was nothing on, you know, how do you process a fatality, you know, or how do you cope with a family that's grieving. So, you know, we have a really good chaplain group. We have peer support. Just a good group of people. You know, we're kind of labeled with that twisted sense of humor. Sometimes that helps process, though it can be, you know, complex at times, but yeah.
Well, and you know, I think you mentioned it too, that you do show up on the worst time of that person's life, and then you give such relief to that person. They're so happy and relieved that somebody's going to help them. So it's nice to know that. I think we're moving a little bit towards making sure that you get some relief.
Yeah.
And the fire department and the police department, people get some relief.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we're going to be right back with more Naperville Notables.